Hey everyone, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make PIV record style, deep, groovy house, sort of like the minimal micro house sound. It's really popular right now. And yeah, as usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description and on my Patreon if you're a patron there. And yeah, let's get started. Alright, here is the project file. We're at 126 BPM. First sound here is this chord stab. It's really like all of these chord stabs up here actually, so I'll just play all of these and kind of talk about them really quick. So as you can hear, each one of these individual chord stabs is doing something pretty important, but when you put them all together, they all add up to make one very interesting little groove here. You know, like how you get that between those two, or even just like this one. You know, kind of doing a bit of that. So it's important to not just think about each individual one, but it's really about how they're all fitting into the groove. And like, you know, because if you just had this on its own, it's just a stab hitting on the upbeats. But if you add these things, now it fits into a particular place in the groove. So yeah, the first one, here is the MIDI for it. So all this is, it's actually all just the same chord. It's just G sharp minor 7. And then it's just across different octaves. And then with this one and that one, I just took off that minor 7th on top. So those are just regular minor chords. But yeah, that's typically what you want for the style, you know, like minor 7, major 7 chords, minor 9th or major 9th chords as well. And yeah, and then with the sound on this one, it's made with operators. So this is just two sine waves here. You can see I actually have the first one up an octave from the second one. And then we have the envelope on the first one set like that. Then we have the filter set like this. You can see I've got an envelope on that. It's a bandpass. And then also this is being automated. So it just kind of makes it so, you know, it's slightly different every time. And yeah, then we just have a bit of chorus, a bit of echo and reverb, which you can see those are pretty short. You know, they just give it a little bit of space, a little bit more rhythm. Because you have all this like kind of coming out of it at the end of the sound there. And then finally I just have a bit of drum bus to make this one a bit fatter. You know, it helps because you want these to really have a bit more like attack to them too, so that really helps there. And yeah, then we have the second stab. So this one's really simple. This one's just playing a G sharp minor chord, and then I've added another G sharp on top, so like a high one. And with this one, what's happening is we just have two sine waves inside of analog here, detuned a little bit. The second one is up an octave from the first one, and then the filter. And then you can see the amp envelope set like that, and then we just have a bit of unison. So this one's a really simple sound. It's just about getting the sine waves sort of detuned, because if we put them just like right in tune with each other, it's just kind of a sine wave. But when you add these detuning things, like the detune on the second oscillator and then the unison here, you hear it gives it a lot of movement while still just being some nice clean sine waves. Then we have a bit of chorus and some reverb to give it some space. You can see that. Then I just have a bit of drum bus to beef it up a bit, and then a high pass filter cutting out the low end. And yeah, and then we have our third stab, which just kind of plays off that one I just showed you, because it goes like, you know, this one just comes every 4 bars actually, and it's just giving that little into the chord there. So what's happening is this is actually playing a D sharp minor chord. It's the same shape as that chord I just showed you, where it's the minor chord and then the root note up top. So this D sharp minor here, that would actually be, if you look at it, you see how D sharp is 7 notes up from G sharp, or 5 notes down? This would actually be the 5th of G sharp. So yeah, we just kind of get a cool like interaction between those two chords, where it feels very kind of like, and you know, it makes this one play into that other stab a lot better than if you had just used another G sharp minor for this one. And for the sound with this one, this is made with operators. So this is, you can see, the sound which is made with 2 sine waves. I have this oscillator B here, down an octave, and then oscillator A is up actually an octave from the default settings. So kind of a little bit of a different sound that you get when you have the carrier at a different octave from the modulator with FM synthesis. And yeah, and then you can see I also have a bit of attack on that first oscillator, so that's how you're getting that like kind of like fading into the sound like that. Then we have a bandpass here on it as well. You know, just kind of makes it, here's without that. You can hear without it, it's just kind of a bit sharp. This kind of dials it back. Then we just have some chorus and reverb for space, and then a bit of drum bus. And then the last chord stab is this one, which hits every single bar. So yeah, this one literally plays through every single bar. This is the most repetitive one. And it's meant to just be kind of like a quick little, just like how you can hear all the like, all the reverb and echo with the other stabs. This one's meant to just be like a little bit faster and a little bit shorter. For the chord here, it's just playing a G sharp minor 7, so just like I was talking about earlier. And then the sound with this one is made with analog. It's just 2 saw waves going into a low pass filter actually. So you can see with the low pass, we just have a bit of an envelope on it. You know, it's a bit more like plucky. And yeah, pretty straightforward there. The amp envelope's like that. And then finally, we just have a bit of vibrato. Then I have some chorus just to spread it out and give it a bit more of kind of like a washed texture. Then we have this flanger. So here's without this. And then with it. So you can hear this flanger is giving it kind of a more interesting texture. You know, it gives it something that's moving and changing as well, because the LFO is moving this constantly back and forth. So we're kind of getting like, you know, a little bit of a different textural change between each chord. But yeah, definitely like if you want to make something that doesn't just sound like a standard saw wave or square wave, I recommend playing with like some chorus and flanger together, because you can get some really interesting stuff out of it. Then we just have the short reverb just to give it a little bit of like, you know, it's not space. It's not like if it was where you can actually really hear the long reverb. It's just a quick little, you know, just kind of gives it like some room. And then finally, I just have a bit of drum bus. And yeah, that's it for the stabs. So you see like what each one's doing individually. But again, it's not just the individual ones. If I only explain the individual ones, I'd be doing you guys a bit of a disservice, because it really is about how this is all like kind of all playing together like that. And yeah, then we have the string. So this is really simple. It's just playing a G sharp. It's just holding out that long note, you know, kind of creating some atmosphere and some vibe in the tune. And so the way that this is made is it's just a sample actually. So it's this long string sample, and then I brought it into a simpler here, and we're using the loop. And the loop is the key, because you want this to essentially play forever. So with this loop, it does that. And then the other thing is the fade, because if I turn off that fade, here you kind of get a click there every time it restarts. The fade makes it so that it's like a really smooth loop. And then we just have this echo here. You know, just giving it a bit of space. The key here is I have the ping pong setting on, so it's really like giving it stereo width, because you're hearing those delays kind of spreading it out. Then we have a bit of drum bus to beef it up and make it a bit fatter. And then finally, I just have this auto pan, and this you can see I have the phase on 0, and then we're on quarter notes with this inverted saw wave waveform. So this is really just affecting the volume, and it's making it so it's like as if it was being sidechained to the kick. But this way, even if you don't have the kick playing, you still get this thing kind of bouncing up, you know, so it has a bit more groove. Then we have the bass line. So here's the bass. You can see it's really simple. You know, with this style of track, especially when you have the chord stabs bouncing around so much, you know, just having a simple groovy like down 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 bass line like this really is all you're really going to want, because it's really just about getting like some nice fat bass frequencies in there with something that's going to have a bit of groove but isn't going to be like so, taking up so much space, because it will be really easy to have 1,000,001 notes in this bass line, but just by keeping it really simple, really with the groove like this. Again, like, it's going to fit into the track a lot better, and it's just going to be a better bass overall. And yeah, so you can see, this is all in the key of G sharp minor. Like, all of these notes here, like you can see, we have E, which would be actually just one note up from the 5th, which would be D sharp. We have this F sharp, which is the minor 7th. We have another F sharp, and then we have a C sharp, which would be the 4th actually. So it's all in the key, but it's just kind of like a little bit, kind of playing its own melody, And then for the sound, this is made with analog, so it's just a square wave and then a sine wave. And yeah, you can hear it's just creating this like super fat waveform where we get tons of bass, but there's still a bit of like mid-range to it. Which you can really hear that if I turn off the filter. And then the filter's on there, so you can see the envelope is like that, and then we're just giving it a bit of a pluck. This makes it deeper. Then we have the amp envelope like that. Then finally, we just have a bit of drum bus to fatten it up. And then we have an EQ8, which is cutting out a bit of room at 100 Hz and then boosting the low end, so just kind of making a little bit of room for the kick. And yeah, then we have our kick. So this is, as you can hear, just like a nice fat 909 style of kick. That's really what you want to use for these types of tracks. And yeah, just super nice and punchy and really boomy too. Like, when you hear these tracks, you might think they're using kind of smaller kick samples just because it kind of sounds smaller in terms of the music than, say, I guess like a techno kick or something like that. But they're actually really boomy kicks. And then that's just going through some drum bus. And then on the groove of this low end, so I just have a bit of saturation here just to tie this all together. Here's without it. And with it, you can hear it's not really that much louder with it. That's not really the point, because this is already, nicely hitting in the mix. It's in the right place, all that. It's just kind of like, gluing it together a little bit. You feel like the low end is just a lot tighter overall when you hear this all together going through the saturator. And yeah, then we have our hi-hats. So I just kind of want to go through the different layers here and show you. So we have like the main one, which is 2 layers. So we have this hi-hat, which is a bit, more of an attack, a bit punchier. And then this one, which kind of gives us like the body of the sound. This is a bit like, you can hear that when we add in that first hi-hat, it adds in the punch that we need. And then you can see also with both of these, I've shortened them with the amplitude envelope. So that's a really good technique for the style, because you don't want a super long hi-hat. You want like that. So just shortening these. That's a great way to get that. Then we have this hi-hat. Just playing some straight 16th notes. You'll notice I have this on pretty much everything that plays a 16th note inside of this project file. I have this Logic 16 swing. This is just one of Ableton's, like if you go to the chord library, this is one of the swings in there. But this just gives everything a uniform kind of swing. It makes it so like, it's all happening on the same time. But yeah, then we have like this noise hi-hat, which is just operator. This is just adding some nice kind of like sparkly high end on there. So it's just a bit of white noise. And then I have a bandpass filter with a little bit of an envelope. And then I have an LFO on the filter, just kind of like moving it really subtly. Then finally we just have the shaker. So this just gives us something live that still has like a lot of, groove to it. And then you put that all together. And this is what it sounds like. So yeah, I just wanted to show you the different layers that are going to go into it. You know, it's not just going to be like one main hi-hat on the upbeats, one hi-hat, and then you call it a day. You got to have like kind of the different layers in there strategically placed. And then I just have some saturation on that whole group, just tying it all together. And then just a bit of EQ actually, just to cut out the low end. That's all it's doing. And that's it for the hi-hats. Then we have the clap. So I actually put this clap on its own. You know, this works because you want the percussion, like all this stuff. Usually I'd put it in this group, but as you can see, this group's pretty quiet. You know, the percussion and the clap are kind of two different things, I think, because the clap needs to be pretty loud. Versus all this stuff is pretty quiet in the mix. So I just have this clap on its own. It's a really simple, it's just like a nice punchy drum machine style clap like this. And then it's going through a bit of drum bus. Nothing too complicated. You just want like a nice clap sample more than anything. And then finally we have all the percussion. So I have all of this laid out here in a way where you can actually just kind of see it without me having to go into the actual arrangement, save for this bell down here. So if you look at this, all this percussion is pretty much just like an individual hit here, so you can see each thing that's happening. And yeah, so we have a bunch of different stuff, like this little metal percussion, the conga, which is kind of playing off of that, the snare, that just hits at the end of every bar, like a little 808 rim shot, another snare that's just kind of, and then this last snare down here. So yeah, you see everything that goes into it. Again, it's just like with the hi-hats, like it's not just going to be one little like and then that's the end of the day. You really have to make sure you go through and you have enough stuff to like really fill it out. So really what that comes down to is like within each of these little quarter notes, you can see there's at least some kind of percussion each time. And that's what's going to keep it going. You just really want to make sure that you have maybe like 5 or so percussions like this, and something's happening within each little like subdivision of these quarter notes here. And that's really what's going to create the energy for the track, because this stuff, as quiet as it is in the mix, you know, if I get rid of like, let's say we'll just get rid of some of these layers, it's going to be missing a lot of energy if you don't have all of this stuff. So it's just kind of a case where, you know, the small things really make up the big picture. And then on the group of percussion, I just have a bit of drum bus. So here's without that. You can hear, like, even on that bell, it's just fattening it all up and really tying it all together kind of texturally as well, you know, making all the percussion feel really even and like it's all coming from the same place. And yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right in the top of the description. This really helps me out and supports me when you guys go and pick that up. Like I said, you know, it's only $5, but you get all this great stuff to work with so you can make your own tracks. You know, these are really like high quality templates here that I have available for a very affordable price, and this really supports me as well. And yeah, thank you so much for all the love lately, guys. I've really been feeling all the support. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.